Debbie Brady. Nice to see everybody. Hey there, Urban Explorer. Okie dokie. So without further ado, let's go ahead and add Ray to the stream. He's a good friend of mine. Don't give him too much of a hard time, like we did Jeremy Knight last week. Poor Jeremy. Hello, Mr. Ray Allen. How are
Hello.
you?
Good. How are you?
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Goodness. So I've been a real estate agent since 2007. Been active as a residential real estate, focused in on residential real estate, I guess, since 2013. So been around the block a little bit now. Own a brokerage, started in 2018, my own brand, my own brokerage, and we've been rocking out ever since. So
What's your brokerage name so you can let everybody know?
it's Pixel Properties Realty. So
And
it's a small boutique where we have 3 offices actually now. But
you're in Arkansas, right?
oh my goodness, it's Arkansas. Arkansas was formed first, so it should be Arkansas and Kansas. But I don't know what they're doing over there in Kansas.
The English language drives me crazy because if you look at it phonetically, it's Arkansas. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
Arkansas. Whatever. So I'm having you on here because you had an interesting podcast talking about how people are deciding to not necessarily go big in this housing boom that we have going in 2020. They're going small. They're buying small. And I want to get your opinion on what you think is happening in the housing market. And I'm going to throw my 2 cents in there because I love a good argument.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what you said at the beginning of this because we may have differing opinions. You know, Dan is like far left-wing guy. I'm a pretty conservative guy, and we always try to disagree, but it turns out we agree on almost everything that we talk about on the show. So we were talking about this tiny home thing, and there was an article recently that talked about the boom in tiny homes and how some of it related to people, instead of purchasing a larger home and going more into debt, they were purchasing a smaller home, $30,000 to $60,000. You could be inside of a home versus like that's the down payment on a lot of houses. But there were also alternative uses for the tiny homes, and they were seeing that people, instead of building a large home or something like that, a large guest house, they were opting for more of a small home, or people were even putting tiny homes in their backyards and using them as their office because they're having to work from home now. And so it's like a multifaceted use as to why tiny homes are on the rise. But as you know, anytime when a product like that begins to rise, it makes it far more economical for other people to afford it. For instance, big screen TVs come out, the latest 4K, 8K, and it's always like $60,000. And then over time, you could go out and buy one for $1,000. That's the economies of scale. So I think in the future, we'll probably see more people buying the tiny homes just because the economies of scale are going to make them a lot less expensive, I hope.
That is the hope, because the major problem is that if you pull up statistics, the average home price right now is $238,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
The average American family of 4 makes $68,000 a year. Yeah. If they had $1,000 worth of debt, that means student loans, cars, any of that thing like that, just $1,000. That means they can only afford a $117,000 house. How many houses do you know? Like in my area, 117,000 isn't going to get you much of a house. In many areas across the United States, that's impossible. They have to come up with a better solution for people to find affordable housing. And I think it's terrible. Actually, it's awful that we actually have to resort to a house that's less than 300 square feet for somebody to be able to afford a home.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, it is, you could say it's terrible, but it's capitalism too, right? So, back in the day when there was one person in a household working, a lot of things were cheaper. And then you had 2 people in a household working, and all the capitalists saw that and said, hey, we could charge more for this stuff. And that's what happened. And now to maintain the same style of life that people want, everything is more expensive. And so including homes, they're starting to go up in value, and it's the supply demand curve. So I think if more tiny homes were accessible, then it would ease the supply and demand for, quote, regular housing, which should make those less expensive. So I think a lot of things could happen to make things less expensive in the future. Whenever the foreclosure moratorium goes away, that is kind of leaking into our discussion about what may happen in 2021. But when the foreclosure moratorium goes away and banks can actually foreclose on these properties that they've been needing to foreclose on because they're just like regular foreclosures, right? They haven't been able to do those this year either. then that should ease some of the supply constraints at the bottom 1/3 of the market, because that's most of the foreclosures. And when that happens, it should ease some of the supply. And maybe tiny homes would be in less demand at that time because people are seeing that they could afford more of a larger home. But kind of the American way is like, if you can buy the square footage, buy it. But maybe there's a changing trend. We saw that like 5, 6 years ago. It seems like tiny homes are like everything was tiny home, tiny, 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 tiny.
That was a
Now,
lot of marketing. That wasn't
yeah,
it wasn't as popular as people made it seem. It was something that was exciting and people like to put it on Instagram and show, it wasn't as what they thought. But the problem that even with tiny homes and manufactured homes, which were the affordable housing option for people, is because of the supply constraints that happened because of we'll call it the pandy, that happened. They're more expensive. Something that used to cost $90,000 to purchase is now $117,000. And if you look at the trend, they never go back down. Once they've go up, they never go back down.
do you think some of that's because of the bougie stuff people are putting inside of them now? They're like, well, we could
That's an
afford
add-on.
like a $200,000 home, but instead we're going to buy a $100,000 tiny home and put 50,000 more of stuff into it.
Well, that's somebody building it themselves. But if they were going to a lot where people sell them,
Mhm.
that same manufactured home that used to cost $90,000, there's not anything that's changed about it. It's 117.
Wow.
And if you look at the trend from 1988 of manufactured homes, they never went back down. They only uptick in price. They never decrease in price
Interesting.
ever, year after year. So I just you have to have affordable housing for everybody. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe the capitalist way, but you can't leave a portion of the United States out in the cold and go, sorry, fend for yourself. You can
Well,
rent a room underneath my garage,
I was about to say, don't they become the renters and the people that fill the homes for landlords and all that stuff?
Yes, but I mean, is that like you're setting your families up for something? Like my kids now will not be able to afford college and afford a house and afford this and afford that,
I mean,
like
maybe they should just go for the house and not the college, but that's a different discussion too.
Yeah, my daughter wants to be a lawyer. I don't know where that came from. Maybe because she likes arguing. All right, we do have a question. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up. So, car reviews with Sawyer Sanders says, "How much is the most expensive mobile home in the world?" I know the most expensive mobile homes in the United States are in California. I actually did a video about this. It's in Malibu, and they're right on the coastline there.
Mhm.
And even though they're actually mobile homes, they're not even manufactured homes. Some of them are considered trailers because they were built before 1976, but these things are done up to the nines. And it's even funnier about them. They're millions of dollars, some of them $3-4 million,
Mhm.
and they rent the land underneath them. They don't even
Wow.
own the land. They just own the
Is that
manufacturer.
the $3 or $4 million Paradise Cove or whatever it's called?
That's it. That
Yeah,
is exactly right.
I've heard
Man,
about
you have good
those.
memory because I couldn't
Well,
even pull that out, and I
I've
did a video
also
on it.
I've also heard about those mobile homes at the base of a mountain that's skiable, and you just kinda can ski in and out, and they're $1 to $2 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm also questioning the fact that if mm, tiny homes are going to be the way, because
Yeah.
of the fact that they are 300 square feet, and I don't see them being like the end all be all for people in housing, but who knows?
I mean, we thought about for a while getting a small home on some acreage, but then we added up the space we would need, and it's not considered a tiny home. But maybe one day in retirement or something like that, having a smaller home and having more outdoor space, I could definitely see that happening. But then you start thinking like, well, it would be nice to have like an office, and it would be really nice to have a media room, and man,
Yeah,
that'd be
that's what I
cool to be
want.
able to have a gym. And now it's way off of a tiny home. Now you're like 5,000 square feet.
But the problem with a lot of areas is the restrictions for building is they don't even allow for anything under 600 square feet. Like in
Yeah.
my area, you cannot, even if you own 6 acres, you can't have a structure on there that's less than 600 square feet. That would be considered a home. It's
Hmm.
impossible. So, and that's a lot. That's true of many areas. Okay. Audrey has a question. What are your thoughts on the World Epic? Let's try this again. What are your thoughts on the World Economic Forum's plans on having nobody own any property in 10 years. How would that work? Why bother buying property if we're going to lose it? I have not heard this. Have you heard this,
I've
Ray?
not heard this, but it's not going to work. I mean, America wouldn't participate in that.
I don't think so.
So, well, the word real estate comes from the term royal estate, right? From back in the day. And if you don't
Mhm.
believe that you don't really have full ownership of your property, and if you don't believe in that, just don't pay property taxes for a while and see what happens, right? So really, in a sense, you are renting your property from the government. So I don't think I don't see America participating any more than that because we're already kind of set up that way.
In England, you don't own the land. The queen does. The queen owns all the land, which I did not know. My friend who's English, urban explorer in there, he
Mhm.
explained that to me. I was like, well, isn't that something? He's like,
A
yeah,
royal estate. There you go.
yeah. I didn't learn something new. um, so the other thing that I've been reading in all these blogs and news articles, they're painting this beautiful, you know, kaleidoscope of colors of wonderment of the housing market in 21. They don't see anything happening in 2021. Like it, matter of fact, we're going to tick up a good, 4%. We're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen.
Right.
And I'm like reading the jobs reports and I'm thinking of the people that are losing their jobs, which are the people that are probably making about $68,000 a year,
Mhm.
with a family of 4, and you're gonna tell me that that's not a housing problem that's gonna be hitting in 2021? I maybe not, of course, not the beginning of the year, but I'm
Right.
saying by the end of the 4th quarter of the 2021, I think we're gonna be like, "Oh, well, I just didn't see that coming," like
Well, so I have no idea where you're on the political spectrum, but if you recall, there was an election, and it was really interesting for us to see on the Bearded Men Real Estate show whenever the election was essentially said and done, the change of the headlines and
Mhm,
how things were being, because we were up to we were 40 and 30% year over year on sales, where we
mhm,
were selling 40 and 30% more this year than we sold last year. And then there was an election, and then they started saying, "Hey, there was only a 1% change from last week, but we are how'd they state it? Striking 26% above what it was last year." And they started to really promote that number that has been big all year, but they only started to promote that after the election. So I think there's probably a lot of politics at play there. I think in reality, whenever you look at the numbers, the jobs report is the number to watch.
mhm,
You know, the Fed, I've got this video on the Fed talking about like the two main jobs of the Fed, right?
mhm,
Maintaining full employment and also preventing inflation. And
mhm,
that's the balance. Well, the Fed has done everything they can right now in dropping the rates to maintain full employment. And for the most part, it's working, right? We say that full employment is anywhere from 4 to 6%. And the last time I checked, it was around 7 or 8%. So it's only a couple of percent off. But if that starts to worsen, like in October of 2009, I think it got over 10%, right? And then the market really began to crash. So if that number starts to worsen, you have a situation in which people want to buy a house, but they can't. And you said, well, is that really a big deal? There's over 2 trillion in equity right now wrapped up in people's homes around the United States. So if someone was in trouble and they lost their job, they right now they could easily sell their house. They wouldn't be upside down. They could take that equity, live off of it for a while, or buy a smaller home. But if there's a situation in which a lot of people are losing their jobs, or let's say we go in another lockdown, and maybe people are furloughed. Well, the lenders have already stretched through forbearance and through a lot of different things. They've already stretched, and they may not be so apt to give money away at the same rate that they're giving the money away now or letting people lend it. And if that happens, you have a situation in which people need to sell, and you have a situation in which people want to buy, but they can't buy because they lost their job or they can't get the money. And that's the situation to watch that would mimic 2007 and 2008. And I came out very early against Susie Orman, who at the beginning of this year was like, hey, it's going to be just like 2007 and 8. I was like, no, It's
We
not, and it won't be.
we argued that. I remember that when she put that out. She put it on
Yeah.
Facebook, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?
I
Are
mean,
you
she
out
got
of your mind?"
slammed by so many, and at the time, that is true. Like, everything she said to do was absolutely wrong. She actually told you to wait until October, November, December, which if you had waited, you're paying about 10% more for your home now than you were back then. So it was totally horrible advice. But the thing to watch is if we get into another lockdown, or if for some reason the lenders tighten their constraints, the jobs haven't recovered, then that's a situation that could go south pretty quickly.
Let's talk about when you talk about lending constraints. Most mortgage lenders will not lend money under $65,000.
Yeah.
I can't find a lender to do it. If manufactured homes and modular homes and uh, tiny homes, they generally fall under that $65,000 mark. Do you think that it's possible that they would create, because they have things called chattel loans, which are the worst
Right.
predatory lending in the whole entire universe?
Yeah.
But do you think that they would try to get those people to want to get a mortgage if they could? Do you think they're striving to make it a little easier for people that are buying houses that are under 65,000?
Maybe I mean, it's the nature of the product that's prevented a lot of the lenders from lending on it. I sold a metal built home, gorgeous home, really cool exterior. It was all metal siding. The frame was all metal on the inside, super strong structurally, and the inside was tricked out, just like, any amazing home would be. But we could not get a loan on it. So the person that bought it had to pay cash. I think they paid like 150,000 or something like that in cash to buy it, because that's the only person that could get the loan, or that could get the money to buy the home. And there were lenders everywhere saying, no, this person's pre-approved. And I'd call and say, are they pre-approved for this home? And they'd say, nah. So I think the lenders, they already have stuff against tiny homes, alternative products like the container homes and things like that. And until they loosen up that stuff, I think it's going to be tough. They may come up with some alternative products, but I think it's going to be the manufacturers that rescue their own industry in that situation. I think the manufacturers are going to have to be the ones to extend the loan, run someone's credit and figure out if they're credit worthy or not, and then extend the loan to them, and then create these packages of almost like a subprime type package, but it would be prime loans on what the industry might consider a subprime product. And then you have these people that have been paying for 6 months to a year, and then that manufacturer can then sell the paying notes on these properties. I think that's what's going to happen in order for more people to be able to buy. I don't see the banks giving that much attention to it.
You have me thinking, because what changed the manufactured home industry was the fact that, of course, you couldn't get a home loan on a mobile home because of the fact it wasn't considered a house. They didn't have any kind of regulations on it. What if the government came out with their own, like what they have as a HUD tag, or, HUD sticker on these manufactured homes? What if they had a tiny home tag, like their own HUD tag that would be met the government standards, that would cause it to, like you have to, just like a manufactured home, it has to be adhered to a foundation. It has to meet their regulations, certain specifications. It has to be attached to a well. And, you have to get all those, the same restrictions that you would for a manufactured home. Why couldn't that be applied to a tiny home?
Yeah, I could see that happening. Some kind of government regulation to put in the middle of it. But they'd also have to consider the alternative products, like the 3D printed houses, right? They'd have to. That's a huge coffee cup.
Oh, I actually give them away. Matter of fact, Ray, you know
That
what?
does not fit in a tiny home.
No, like Ray. Matter of fact, these are the things I give them away on my channel. If you pick somebody out in the chat,
Yeah.
pick somebody out in the chat, and I'll give away a cup to them. Tell them to email me.
Okay. Good.
Info at KristinaSmallhorn.com.
I'll pick someone that asks really good question.
Okay, there you go. There you go. All right, let's see if we have any questions coming up here. Somebody did say something, and I'm going to pull it up. Oh, well, Jules said something interesting, and I sympathize, really, I do. Truthfully, I can't afford rent either. A lot of places where I live are almost at the price of a house payment. That's part of people being homeless. Okay, so even in my area, I was looking for somebody to find a house to rent, and it was too expensive. So I'm like, well, let me look at the apartments. the size of apartments were actually smaller than the houses we were looking for to rent, and they didn't have anything available, and they were more expensive. I'm like, what are people supposed to
Yeah.
do? It's like you can't, something's got to give at some point, because it's like it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. People have to find a place to live or they can't work.
Do you
You
think
know?
that's the Airbnb effect?
Um,
Where people that would have their properties for rent in a lot of the bigger cities have now put them Airbnb, and they're getting way more in 1 or 2 weekends than they could all week, not messing with a renter. So now the rental supply is low. And then, supply and demand. If the supply is low, then you have more
I,
landlords can ask for more.
well, it would make sense in big cities, but I think for small towns, it was that housing is like just like everywhere, every housing is exploded. So everybody wants to be in a house. So people that had their house previously renting, they're like, I'm going to get out of this anyways. I don't want to be a renter. And then they sell it,
Yeah.
straight. And so there just isn't enough right now. And
I'm
nobody's
wondering if
building
that
anything.
I'm wondering if that's going to be the first place in which supply becomes available, because if the jobs don't improve and you have a lot of people in the service industry that aren't working, traditionally the service industry is a high percentage of tenant and
Mhm.
rent. So service and hospitality, if those industries don't improve and they still get hit by the pandy, as you said, then I could see that would become more available, or they'd have to become cheaper, because those tenants are going to be telling their landlords, look, I can't afford this anymore. I got to go. So you should see some lowering of the rents if people can't pay it.
Uh, I've never seen rent. I've rented for many years of my life, and my rent never went down.
Well, we have had 1 year. They always used to say, historically, there's never been a 10-year period in which real estate didn't make money. There was 1 year.
1 year.
1 year to where you could look at a 10-year period and say, oh, that year it did not make money.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting point. Give me your feedback. This says lenders won't lend under 60,000 because they don't want you to pay it off your house in 5 years. They want you to pay it off in 30 years, and so they can get the interest, so you can't retire early.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not charities.
No,
Their product is for you to pay interest. If they couldn't collect a lot of interest, then they wouldn't give you a loan for. I mean, think about the risk that someone is saying, hey, I'm going to give you some money. You can go out and buy this house, and I'm going to trust that you're going to pay me it every single month. But I don't trust you fully, so I'm going to put my percentage, what I make, we're going to front load that. I think it's a fair trade.
but here's the thing. They're like, what about the family that, they're both, the couple's both working. They have steady jobs. They've been working for years. That it doesn't, it's obvious that they're not going to be trying to move. Like they're not going to be getting the job that makes them $1 million. They're just, just a regular family, just living their best life. Why couldn't they get a house for under 60,000? They're not going to be paying it off in 30 years. I mean, like, there has to be a way. It bothers me. It keeps me up at night because I'm like, everybody should have the ability to, if you are a good, hardworking, tax paying American citizen, you should have the ability to buy your own home in some way, shape, or form.
So I wonder if you could use your powers that be to find enough people with enough capital to create an institution that would loan from 40 to 100K.
I put it out here every week. I talk
I mean,
about it every single week. If
it seems
somebody
like
would reach out to me like that, but what happens is that they're like, well, I have a company for your manufactured homes, but they're a chattel loan company and they charge 10 to 12%. I'm like,
um,
that's highway robbery. And
but
they're
don't
like,
they
well, it's the risk. And I'm like, yeah, but these people are literally paycheck to paycheck people.
But
It's
that's
like,
why it's a risk. That's why it's a higher risk. I mean, that's the issue.
yeah, but like I was paycheck to paycheck a person as well. I just happened to
Yeah,
make more of a paycheck than the person behind me,
yeah,
but my debt to income and everything else was the same as the person making $68,000.
yeah.
They can afford, they had just as much, like,
That we had a time in our life where we had to rent because we drew a line in our budget, and everybody below that line didn't get paid that week or month. So we've been there.
okay, here's another question. Here we go. We're going to put it this way. Question. We're in Wyoming. We're buying land and looking to buy a modular home. Which would you recommend, having a crawl space or a basement, and why? Also, extremely windy around here. I live in Louisiana. We don't even have basements. This is not a
Yeah.
question for me. You know what you want to talk to? You'll want to talk to a structural engineer in your area that would have a better concept of what you would need for your specific area. I couldn't give you advice on that as much as I'd love to.
Yeah, and where I live, basements are too wet, and people don't like them. But I would say if it's dry there, I think it's a great idea. But here, it's not a good idea.
I lived in Georgia and we had basements and I loved it. I loved having a basement, but they are kind of cold and wet.
Well, you
Yucky.
could do like sink a container home down there, right? Have a
Sink a
container home
container home in
and
a
put a
basement?
modular above it. Yeah.
How I don't know that would work, right?
I don't know.
Because how would you get the whole like, say you're not in an existing house is what you're saying, one
No,
that's
yeah,
being built.
before you put your modular there,
Oh,
right? Sink
okay.
a container
Okay.
home right under it and park your mobile over it, and then you have a little ladder or whatever, a little hatch that goes down. You got a little safe room.
You're, like, talking some, the sky is
Prepper.
falling
That's
yeah,
prepper.
little s zombies are coming action here.
It works. Well, she said Wyoming is extremely dry, is what she said. Well, yeah, I'll go for it then.
Yeah, it's dry and it's cold. My aunt used to live in Wyoming. We got sidetracked. So all right, so I want to ask you your prediction. Do you
Mhm.
think 2021 is going to see any dip in housing prices? Because that's what most people want. A lot of the people that are in my chat are looking for a house. They've been struggling for months because they get outbid after home after home after home. Is the market going to either flatten? Do you think the prices are going to come down? When are they going to come down? What is your crystal ball prediction?
Yeah, historically speaking, I think it may be easier for people to begin to find a home, but I don't think it will be easier for them to pay for the home. Historically speaking, there's only been two recessions in our history in which home prices have dropped. One of those recessions, it dropped 1.9%. The other was 19%. So you can guess which one that was. The other recessions that we've had, home prices have gone up 2 to 3%. So historically speaking, you could bet on no, home prices are not going to drop. You could also bet that based on the supply, it's historically low right now. There's a lot of builders that are trying to jump at the chance to build stuff. So I could see that the market would ease in supply as people who are like, well, I'm just going to stop looking because I can't afford a home right now. So there's fewer buyers in the market. Maybe supply finally start to catch up. And I would look for like a 3 to 4 month supply to hit sometime around midsummer. It wouldn't surprise me if we were back up to a 4 month supply, which that doesn't sound
That's
like huge
healthy.
news, but right now, given what we're at, around a 2.5 to 3 month supply, that would be pretty huge.
That'd be great because it's
But
nothing's more frustrating.
I think if you have 60,000 in cash, you may get to take advantage of some opportunities in the foreclosure market. I could see a lot of investors looking for foreclosures as the moratorium ends. Get ready for the news stories because people are going to talk about historic foreclosures from Trump's economy. Bleh. In reality, they've just had a moratorium. They haven't been able to foreclose. So they're finally going to get to foreclose, and you're going to have a bunch of foreclosures happen all at once.
It depends on the state though, because they've already started in Florida. They didn't
Yeah.
they stopped they didn't care. They were just moving forward with it.
Yeah.
My thing is that a lot of people that took the forbearance extended their forbearance and they still don't have a job. And some of these forbearance companies or mortgage companies have said to them they have to pay it in one sum. So not all of
Yeah.
them, but there's been a few like, who has that money laying around? You've been out of job for 6 months. You haven't been able to pay it, but now it's due. Like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I my
A
my
lot of
prediction
them.
is my prediction is this though, because a lot of the people that have lost their jobs are on the lowest income levels in the United States. What's going to happen is, yeah, the rich people are going to come in. The investors are going to scoop up their houses. They're either going to use them as rentals or resales. And the people that once were homeowners will never be homeowners again because it's going to be impossible for them to dig themselves out of that hole. That's just me.
I don't think it will be impossible, but I think it would be challenging. I don't think it will be
Yeah,
impossible.
I don't know. It just seems to me that like we always end up taking the poop
See,
on the biggest, most like I just feel like we take advantage of the people that need the help the most. That's how it always ends up that way, but whatever.
Look at Jason Miller's comment there.
Okay.
We're currently building 1,300 square foot homes in southern Indiana and selling them before they're done. On our 8th home this year, selling price $165K. We need more workers here. See, so
where are you, Jason?
I was going to say, they need more laborers everywhere, right? They need more labor. And that's been a huge sticking point is the land, labor, and materials. Where they can find the materials, they're having trouble getting the labor and the land.
Get the materials here.
Right.
Like my husband's in roofing, and like he's like, we have work coming out of the wazoo, and we have the people to do it. We don't have the materials to get these roofs up. We can't get them done fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a real opportunity there for someone that maybe has a part-time job or something like that, or maybe is getting unemployed, or maybe is in the service industry or housing. Look, Jason would probably hire you, right, Jason?
Jason, where are you at? Because maybe we can send some people to
Southern Indiana, man. Southern Indiana in the service industry and lost your job. You go talk to him.
All right, this one's for me. Question. Companies like Boxables are making manufactured homes that are tiny. I call several, and it seems not many are. Do you have possible manufacturers that would produce tiny? You have to look in your local areas, those actual home lot areas. You can order any kind of size home that you want. Just make sure that you have checked with your local county that they allow for tiny manufactured homes. Because you even go on a construction site and see a manufactured home that's like 300 square feet. The thing about manufactured homes over tiny homes is tiny homes are generally PMRVs, and they're built to RV specifications because they're designed to travel down the road. But anything that would be built to a manufactured home specifications, those are governed under HUD, and they are built to a higher quality. Now, anything on modular is even built as the same as a traditional built home, but they sometimes even actually exceed the specifications for a traditional built home. So that was my little rant there about it. If it was me and I was going to go tiny, and if it wasn't, because boxable homes are modular homes, I would get 4 boxable homes and throw them up on 4 acres.
Then would you sell the others, or would you live in all 4 of them? Are you saying you'd attach all 4 of them, or you'd like?
Oh, no. I would have 4 little separate almost like a little commune of my own stuff. So, because they're very small. They're only like 326 square feet or something like that.
So you have a master bedroom detached from the rest of the home, detached from the.
Yep. Absolutely. Nice. Clean up, walk away from it. And if you made a mess in one room, it doesn't matter. You can go to the other room and not even look at it. You don't have to walk through the house and see the mess anymore.
That's good.
And then I want to hear my husband snore. It's a genius idea.
You can do 2 different bedrooms, 2 dual masters, or primary. I guess we're saying primary.
That's exactly right. 2 masters, and then he could have his little, I would have my little studio with all my YouTube stuff.
Totally separate studio.
Yeah, and he could have his whole Star Wars room where he has a TV set up with his gaming station. He could totally deck that thing out the way he wanted to. That's exactly what
he needs to get on Twitch if he's not already.
He goes through spurts, he likes it for a little bit, and then he's like, okay, hold on. We digressed again. I see some prices dropping in Atlanta, Georgia, particularly 500,000 and up. Lower priced homes will be starting to foreclose in about 4 to 5 months. Renee, are you a real estate agent? Is that why you noticed that? If so,
I think what's happened, I've noticed some price drops here too, but we do have some seasonality of the market. It's not much. I ran all the numbers from 1965 until today. It seems like there's only a pop in March, but so there's not that much seasonality in real estate, because supply and demand seems to move with each other. But I think what you're seeing is that sellers, and I think probably the onus is on real estate agents here. They're saying, oh man, it's an incredible market. Jump in the market, just price it whatever you want. Let's get it on the market. We'll sell it in one day with 38 offers. And so everyone heard that their friend sold this with 50 offers and their friend sold this with 20 offers. And they're like, man, we got to get our house on the market. They get their house on the market and they list it and oh man, we've overpriced it. So I think you're seeing some sellers start to kind of realistically set their price points, and it's not that could have they sold their house at that price this summer? I don't think so. I just think they've heard from so many people that they can really price their home high, and so you're seeing some price drops as the market begins to settle down a little bit. But I don't think price drops at a 500K price range. Because I think the average purchase price in Atlanta is like 350 or something, if I remember from somebody saying that at the Bearderman Real Estate Show. But
Nice
if
plug.
I know, right? If that's the average purchase price in that area, 500 is a little more luxurious. I think they're probably just getting more realistic.
I don't know about you, but like in our market, our sellers got flat out just greedy and nasty. There for a minute, I was like, "Are you joking?" Like, real, like
Waiving appraisal contingencies.
removing appraisal contingencies, not doing anything on inspection reports, and they were like, "Whatever, I'll just put it back on the market, and I'll even get more now." They were flat out rude, and I understand. I get it. You want to make more money, but it's all. I mean, a little bit of try to be a human being and see it from the other person's perspective. You know, like I don't know. I guess I'm too much of a bleeding heart. I don't know. I just what are you laughing at?
I mean, we say like, I mean, don't be greedy, but there's a portion of the market that's what resets it, right? When people get too greedy and the buyers back away, and then it starts to go down. So, I mean, if they never did that, then we wouldn't know where the ceilings are, and that sets a good precedent too.
I know. I just think karma's a real thing, and I was gonna bite you in the butt one day. I don't know. I could never be that way. I've said this several times when I have rental properties, and when all this started, before they even mentioned anything about moratoriums on mortgages or rents or whatever, I was like, as soon as it all started and we shut down that first day, I said to my renters, this is my mortgage. This is how much I have to pay. If you could cover that cost, we'll forget the rest. Just so until we figure what's going on. And they were like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. Because I didn't want them to move out. And I knew that most likely a lot of these people's jobs weren't going to come be next month. I just needed them to cover my costs. And that worked out for us. That they were like very thankful. Sam has a question. What are your thoughts on the Las Vegas market? I cannot comment on it. I don't know anything about it other than the fact that in 2007, 2008, they were overinflated and they took a huge hit afterwards and they reset. Yeah. But they're back. They're back to normal now, but I don't know what anything about it personally.
I mean, the median is like 300,000. They're up 8.7% year over year. So Vegas is always a place you can bet on. I think.
Stop it! I'm about to pee. You're killing me.
I think if it does go down, it's going to come back. So I mean, Vegas is so huge, and there's so many people going there. I don't until you see casinos like start boarding up places. No, I mean, Vegas will be fine. You may, if you're trying to buy and sell within 6 months to a year, you may get into some trouble if the market does start to flatten out. I could see it kind of adjusting down in some of the major markets, but I think for the most part, it'll be fine.
This was a good question. Do you see that?
So,
what is your prediction for foreclosures, amounts, dates? Do you think people are prepared for the for forbearance end? Have at it.
Yeah, I think for the most part, people are negotiating their deals. So forbearance has been going down for the most part. Every single month we get a report. It's about 5% or something like that. And it's been going down.
It went up last week, I thought.
It did, well, but for the month. It may go up, it may tick up here and there as more people enter it. Initially it was going down huge, and that's because people had accidentally entered forbearance. Did you know about this, where people would call and ask?
Yeah, that happened to clients of mine. They just called and they just wanted some information about it, and they were automatically put on that. And they were like, we never asked for it. They were trying to refinance their house and they automatically put them. If you even called about it, they put you on forbearance.
Yes. Yeah. And so I called about it with our people and they're like, do you want to do that? I was like, no. So I think there's people that were put on accidental forbearance, and that's why we had a huge drop at the front. Now I think you see kind of the normal ebb and flow as people have figured out, man, we thought we could extend. We're through our savings. We actually do need some help. They apply for the forbearance and they get it. In the regulations that the government put in to suggest about how to go through the forbearance, and then once someone ends the forbearance, what to do then, they had suggested adding it back to the back of the loan. They suggested refining, and if somebody did go through a refi process, now they're probably getting a lower rate than they did, and so that's a good way. So I think for the most part, people that are going through forbearance, they need to have an exit plan in place. There was a statistic that talked about like 10% of the people that are going into it have no idea how to exit it. So that was a scary stat. So more people need to talk to their lender about how to exit the forbearance period once they're in it.
That would be a great video. I think I should
Yeah,
interview a bank person. That'd be a good
there you
video.
go.
Good interview.
But then other than that, I think, we're going to see way more foreclosures next year because the moratoriums are going to end across the
It has
United
to.
States.
But it's gonna pan out. The problem is, and everybody's gonna think it's fine, but it's not gonna be fine for the people. I don't
Well,
know.
it's never fine for the people to get foreclosed on, but I mean,
I
the
think
harsh
it's gonna be
reality
a larger amount of people than
the
what.
harsh reality is that there's a lot of people that got a loan to buy a house, and it's not like it was in 2007 and 8, but there's a lot of people that got a loan to buy a house based on a 40% debt to income ratio or 48% debt to income ratio in some places. And the banks probably, it probably shouldn't have been allowed to be that high.
Mhm.
Dave Ramsey, I don't know if you're a fan of him, but
Not at all.
he always suggests a 25% debt to income ratio or 25% income ratio. So whenever you're looking at what you pay your mortgage, if you stay around 25%, you should be okay and be able to make it through a lot of stuff. But if you're up there and you're half of your payment or half of your income is going towards your house, that's going to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. The reason I don't like Dave Ramsey, I'm just going to throw that out there. It's just sitting in my head. He makes a comment every time somebody mentions a manufactured home. Yeah, he'll say, he said, they're a terrible housing option. It's a car you sleep in. And I'm like, dude, really? Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Depends on the end goal, but
I hate them when people I don't
he's
know.
an expert at clickability.
Yeah, I just think that there's just, you do people have, what does it matter that you live in a manufactured home? It's still a home. You can't say it's a car you sleep in, jackass. I'm sorry. Can you sell your house before mortgage forbearance ends?
It has to be cleared.
Yes.
Yeah. We had a client that was in accidental forbearance and they were listed. And he kept paying. He didn't know he was in forbearance, but he kept paying, and it doesn't automatically end the forbearance if you do keep paying. And we went to the closing table. I guess the title company was checking order to pay off, and it said he was in forbearance. And he was like, "What do you mean?" And so we had to fix that. But yeah, you gotta clear the forbearance, and then you can close.
That just happened to me, and he was upside down on his loan. And he
Oh,
owed
no.
6,000. Like if we had closed and he hadn't done the forbearance, he would have actually walked away with $13.
Oh,
Because he took the forbearance. He took it when we were under contract. After those 45 days, the title company pulls the new payoff, and we were $6,600 short. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not paying it. And he was one of those cocky sellers too. Is like he wasn't going to fix anything. He wasn't doing nothing. And we were like, well, we're walking away from your house. Thank you very much. It sucked. It really sucked. And I just think that we're going to see a lot more of that coming up soon.
Yeah.
I think it's starting, in my opinion. Sam says it happened to me. I called them to get the information about forbearance, and then they pulled put me on the program. Luckily, I was making payments till refinance went through. Well, yeah. I don't know why that was like a sneaky move they did. Even Denise says Ramsey, boo. I put him every time I ever do a video about manufactured homes. I always use that quote, because he said it in so many videos. Because I'm like, what a dingleberry thing to say. Look, my husband is telling you to smash the like button. There's a little thumbs up. Hey, do you want to go ahead and give a cup away?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, give a cup away. Who wants a cup? Put it in the chat. Ask a question and see if you can get an answer.
Yeah, there was a good question that we had earlier about let me find that.
Okay.
I liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah. Wow, y'all have a very active chat. It's very active over here. Very good discussion. There's all kinds of sub discussions going on.
Yeah, they all talk to it within each other too. People come here week after week.
Look, we haven't addressed this question yet. Can I put
Okay.
All right, it's the one by random person 86.
Where are we looking?
At 4:03. I don't know if that helps with the timestamp. Random
Okay.
person, 86.
Okay, yes, it does happen.
Shout out to you, random person. You told me to pick a random person. Literally, a person named random person asked a question. That's
All right,
clever.
I'm going all the way to the top here. 403.
Yeah, 403.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Oh, you know why I ignored the question? Because it said vaccine.
Oh, because you can't put that up there?
I
That's a
don't
good
care.
question. We'll see what happens to so if the pandy gets fixed with the vaca, and life gets back to normal. People that have no idea about like analytics and stuff are like, why don't they just say it?
We can't say the
We'll
words.
get depressed. So if it gets rolled out and life gets back to normal, would that have any impact on the housing market and the prices of homes?
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing that would impact is more supply hitting the market, because I think you had a pretty big portion
Confidence.
of people that just they weren't sure what was going to happen. Like you say, confidence. They also didn't want people going through their house and touching everything in a worldwide pandy. So
Mm.
so they didn't list their home. And so I think you'll see a huge uptick in supply, which is going to be really great for a lot of the buyers. And if there's more supply out there and there's about the same number of buyers that are looking, I anticipate that the prices, they're not going to drop, but the price gains will slow, right? So right now we have huge price gains month after month. I think those gains will slow and start to flatten a little bit. I don't think they'll flatten completely. But so instead of like a 10% increase, I think you might see only a 2 to 3% increase year over year.
Okay.
So we can pick random person 86 for the, even though he has to.
Hey, random person 86, if you would like a cup, just email me. It's info@KristinaSmallhorn.com.
Like,
What are you laughing at now?
that was a good question. Just a random person.
Right. Hey, you never know. Random people ask questions all the time. Let's see if we can find any more questions here.
Yeah, there's several right at the end here.
All right, let's get down to the bottom. Well, you had me go all the way like 20 minutes ago.
Well,
what? Why are you laughing so hard?
it was good.
Question: if you own land, do you have to tie it to the modular home loan? Yes. You have, like, if you're trying to get an FHA, VA, or conventional loan, you're going to have to tie it to the land. You can't have one or the other. And now, if you do decide to do one and the other, you're going to have, on the modular home, you're going to have something called a chattel loan, which it would cost you more in interest, and your land would be considered a land loan.
Good answer. Good answer.
Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I have no clue. That's good.
You didn't know that?
No, I just let the lenders take care of that stuff, honestly.
Do you not sell a lot of manufactured homes at all?
No, we'll sell the land under them a lot, but we don't sell a lot of the manufactured homes a lot here.
No, I'll help somebody find the land, but I was curious to see how it's done. Now, some manufactured home companies will roll the land into the they'll do it as a package deal. But do you know that they only give them a 20-year mortgage?
No, that's interesting.
I know.
I guess reduce risk reduction there too, right?
I guess. Well, and then it's 20 years and it's like 10% interest.
Maybe that's what you would see on like the tiny home thing, a higher interest rate, but a much shorter time period. Yeah.
Where it would be affordable. Instead of 30 years, they could do 20 years.
10 to 15 years and a slightly higher interest rate, but it gets paid off sooner. I can see that happening.
Yeah. Pamela says, would it be better to get a HUD house than a manufactured home? Mississippi are there are some bad areas. Are you talking about like a HUD foreclosure home? Yeah, they're great. You know, have you sold a HUD foreclosure home before? Yeah, they're great.
Some of them are like it doesn't really matter what area you're in. It's just the type of loan that was on that home when it was foreclosed.
Yeah, you can go on the HUD website and start seeing what is in your area. Sometimes they're in bad areas and sometimes they're in like really exclusive areas. I sold a HUD house that was over $600,000. So it was a foreclosure. It is what it is.
I mean, that's how you make the investment. Now there are some stipulations on it. Like if you buy a foreclosed home, they're probably not going to do any repairs for you. You're probably not going to be able to get some loan types. Like a VA loan is, if there's chipped paint and whatnot, the foreclosure company, the bank is not going to do anything to fix up the home normally. I mean, they did back in 2009 and 10 because they had to be competitive with foreclosures because there were so many foreclosures. But now they don't. So if you have the cash to take on the project, I think you could do it.
Yeah, agreed. All right. All right. She says, okay, so you don't like Dave Ramsey. He said, but you just said manufactured homes are typically 20 years. Maybe that's why he doesn't like them, besides his snarky remark. Okay. There's two different types of ways to buy a manufactured home. If you have a manufactured home and you're renting the land underneath it, that is a chattel loan. And you own the house itself, but you don't own the land. You also can purchase a manufactured home where you can use your VA, your FHA, all of those regular loans like they have with low interest rates. It's no different than a traditional house. You own the land, you own the house. It's all the same. So I just think he likes saying it because it gets him attention. Sometimes people say things for shock value to get a rise out of people that way. Because like they say, they watch because they hate me. They watch because they love me. There's people out.
But we need more haters really on the Bearded Men of Real Estate show. So, I mean, we have a lot of people that agree with us in the comments. We've never had anything feisty happen. We need except there's this group called the Couch Crew that came in and just bombarded our feed asking if we would buy this couch. That's the most interesting thing that's happened in our comments.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking to him and everything, and we found the group that there's these little Facebook groups where they're like, hey, let's all go jump on this podcast. So we actually got into and found the group, and they were celebrating our responses to it. So if you ever get hit by the Couch Crew, now you know what to do.
Okay. She said, I'm set apart says, if you can only put down 3.5% on an FHA mortgage and you have student loans, you'll never pay off that house. It depends on what your income is.
Also, most people don't want to pay off their house. Most people leave every 5 years, 3 to 5 to 7 years, depending on the area. So I don't know what the goal is. If the goal is to live in a place in which you could change your paint color and improve it and change some walls and maybe have a good investment when you leave, you may not want to pay off the loan, especially if it's a 2.75% or 3%. There's a lot of people with a lot of money that are taking the money from the bank right now and then putting that same amount in the stock market, making way more than their interest, right? If you have $100,000 cash, why would you just go put it all down on a house? The house is going to go up on average 3 to 4% a year, but you could take that same amount of money, stick it in the stock market, make 8 to 10% plus, 15 in some of these funds, and then you're only paying 3% to the bank in interest. So money's super cheap right now. I don't know why you'd want to pay off that house.
My parents, my dad was a director of finance for John Hancock Mutual Life Insurance. He's in his 80s now, and he said, I will never pay off a house. He goes, I can't believe they gave me a 30-year mortgage and I'm 76 years old. He's like, what? How did they weigh the scales on that one?
Well, I mean, maybe they checked to make sure you had good life insurance too.
Jazzy says that they say manufactured mobile homes depreciate unlike regular homes. They can depreciate just like anything. Location says a lot about anything you purchase. So yes, in some areas you can buy a manufactured home, put it on a piece of land. It may not go up or may even go down in value, but the value is in the land. Yes, that's true. But in other areas, like this area right here, you can have a manufactured home, you can put it on a piece of land and it will continuously go up. Does that say that it would go up the same amount as a regular traditional stick-built house? Absolutely not. But it still continues to rise in value.
And you can also have regular, quote, stick-built houses that go down in value too, according to how you maintain the home and what happens to that area. So, yeah.
She says, don't own the land, stop paying your taxes and see what happens. Men with guns will show up and take your land. You think, well, I mean, the thing is, it's like, I'm talking about manufactured home parks. You rent the land underneath it, and so if the manufactured home park isn't paying their bills, I actually did a video about this. If they're not paying, you can actually, as a manufactured mobile home park, get together with your neighbors, and you can all purchase it as a co-op and own it together. So that way your lot rents remain at a steady level instead of, going up exponentially, and you guys work together. It's called a co-op. And I did a video about that. Like it has a big sign that says stop paying rent, stop paying lot rent.
Good.
Is there any questions you want me to throw? Oh, here's one. Audrey says, question, what are your thoughts on Freddie and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac becoming privatized? How will this impact loans in the existing future? It's going to go up, what do they say, 0.5%? 0.5%?
Yeah, they were trying to put that fee a different way, if I recall. The FHA or whatever it is, they had a 0.5% fee that they were trying to add because people were getting loans with really cheap money, and that was basically the reason. They were like, "Hey, we're just going to charge this because we need to make some money."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that privatizing is going to change them that much. Even though they're privatized, they're still regulated with the government.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just how the expense sheets are reported.
It would just add a little bit more to your loan.
It might. They also might become more competitive. I don't know.
Well, that's what they're saying, that they need to become more competitive, and that's why they're doing it. And they want to do it. This has been in the works though since early 2019, before the pandy hit. This wasn't due to the fact that we had this happen. This was something that was going on. It's just funny because it all of a sudden made the news cycle again, like something and I'm like, what is going on? So I've asked a few lenders about it and heard nothing. So it was weird.
There's a comment about interest paid.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a response. Let's see. I'm set apart. It said that's for people in the high tax bracket. They were talking. It was in response to what we were talking about, what you could do with the money. I don't understand the bottom of that. I can't click on it. It's up at the top. I'm set apart.
Tell me the name.
It says, that's it. I'm set apart. He says, that's for people in a high tax bracket. If you don't have a high paying job, and you only put a small amount down, you'll be married to your job in the next 30 years. Plus, you'd be paying 3 times loan amount. Okay. So a couple of issues with the comment and philosophy. One is you're saying that they have a student loan. So I'm assuming they got a college, or they went to college and then got a job. If they go to college and then get a job, I would think that they would have a high enough paying job to not only pay their student loan back, but also to pay off the house if they wanted to. And if you go to college, you should become a high income earner, or why go to college? Like, why do that? Just get a vocational job, start making money almost immediately out of high school. And chances are, because you don't have the student loan, you'll be far well off and be able to pay off your house if you wanted to. The other issue is that we all think like over a 30-year time period, we're going to pay 3 times the loan amount. Not really. Let me run a number here. I got this cool little calculator. It said $150,000 home, which is, a modest starter home, right? If you did a modest starter home, you got a 3% interest rate over the life of the loan, $77,600. So about half of the loan value you'd be paying back to the bank in principal. But if the bank can't make that, then they're not going to be giving loans. And that's the issue, is that that's the market rate for what the risk is for someone to take on to give someone a loan who maybe just started a job out of college, in this example. Then yeah, they're going to charge interest. And if you don't want to pay that, then don't take a loan. Get a tiny house.
You sound so harsh when you say that. Like you're almost like nasty.
Right.
This is an interesting question. Smooth Star says, will real estate lawyers replace realtors with Zillow, Redfin, Zillow, Open Door, et cetera? Thanks.
Will real estate, so like title agents, real estate lawyers? Agents? Know what they're talking about?
What he's saying is that realtors be out of the picture, that real estate lawyers would kind of take over the process of, creating these contracts and negotiating deals. They're basically working as what we call ministerial acts, where they're just basically doing the paperwork and closing the deal.
I don't want to badmouth attorneys, but I have taught a lot of attorneys a lot about real estate. And
sorry.
That's fantastic. So that's okay. We've had clients of ours who were attorneys, and they thought they could do this all themselves, and they were going to put it all out there and and that was fine. But the contract that they drew up, I just visited with them and I said, look, I'm not the attorney, you're the attorney, but let me show you the holes in this contract and where it could come back to bite you and all this stuff. And every time I review their contract and then tell them the holes in their contract, they'll say, well, what contract do you normally use? And then I take them through our contract and all the protections and everything. And part of that is a lot of the experience that we've had as real estate agents, and all these issues come up. And every year our contracts change to further protect the consumer, our clients, and us. And because of that, our contracts are really, really great contracts. So, but I think, could somebody take our contracts and start to copy them and then do their own Zillow open door or whatever? Yeah, they could. But finding a home is just one part of the process. Negotiating the offer with the contracts is just another step of the process. But there's also organizing everything that goes on and having a good client concierge to take care of you every step of the way. And there's no Zillow, Redfin, or Trulia, or Realtor.com or anything that's going to do that. And if you aren't providing that level of service as a real estate agent, and you're watching this, that's the level of service that you're going to have to provide in order to stay relevant.
Yes. And they have to get their name out there and by providing, how about answering their phone? Like, that's a good start. How high do you think the interest rates will go? I don't think they're going to go up. That's not a lot. If they go up, it's they need to keep them low to keep people interested in buying. And I just don't see it going to like 4% or anything like that.
I think the reason why they're low is for jobs. I don't think it has to do with people buying or spending money. I think it's really the jobs. So I think if jobs start to recover, I think interest rates are going to return to like 3.5%.
We've had so many businesses close though. Like honestly, there's so many businesses that have closed that can't keep running because they keep shutting down these cities. And so what if there's no job for people to go back to?
But there will be.
But there will be.
What's his name? Mr. Miller, that was a builder, and he's looking for people to work for him. I mean, there's going to be jobs. It just may not be, the job you want for a while. I had to work a lot of weird jobs at first, working in the restaurant industry and all kinds of stuff before I had the job I wanted.
Uh-huh.
So
well, I still have lots of jobs now. Like I'm everywhere. Yeah. I film houses and it's the only way I can keep my mind going, because if I'm stuck at something, then I'm like, Fisher Family Life says there's always someone that wants their hand in the whole process. Yeah. Think about all the things that come up with, like, what do you do if that you go through inspection period and we don't do the wood destroying insect addendum until the last 10 days before closing? Then you find out that like one side of the wall is being ate up by termites. If you don't know how that whole process works, you're going to be lost, and you're going to be asking a lot of people who have no experience in the situation, and you might end up losing money because you were given bad advice. The job of the real estate agent is protect you, so you're not spending more than you need to. Like they want you to get the house for the least amount of money. And I know like people are like, oh, they wanted me to spend more because, that way they could get a bigger commission check. If you spend $10,000 more on your mortgage or on your loan, it literally adds $37 to our commission. It means nothing, it fills up our car with gas. We really don't want you to pay $10,000 more than you have to. Trust me, that's not our end goal. Yeah, but people really believe that. They do. Sam says you just refinanced his house 3.25, 30 years to 2.87, 20 years. I can tell you the lending's gotten tougher. They have been asking for more things. Like I know that like some of the conditions and underwriting for some of these loans have gotten a little tougher than they had been, I'd say, a year ago at this time. Has that been the case for you too, Ray?
Somewhat. I mean, I think actually kind of reversed. As soon as March happened, they were really tight, and they were like, no, we're only giving loans to the best, most qualified. It's gotten looser more recently, in my experience.
That hasn't been the case for me here. They've asked for some silly stuff, like pictures of, we need to know what the air conditioning unit looks like in the attic and how it's tied to the ceiling. I'm like, what?
So okay. I've had some national lenders do that, but the local lenders haven't. But yeah, I've had national lenders wanted to know what my contract was with the sellers one time. I'm like, nah, you can do it without that, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think they're honestly stalling because they haven't done their crap.
Yeah.
So they're trying to make you run around like a chicken with your
Yeah.
head cut off because then it looks like it's your fault that the loan's running behind.
The whole refi issue, the number of refis that we have has really put a damper on the closing departments being able to close quickly and underwriting being able to do the underwriting quickly. So I think it is taking them longer, but
Yeah, because they have so many.
yeah,
There's so many. Do you think the value of homes decrease? Homes in my area are overpriced
no,
a little bit,
no, I don't. They
a
won't.
little bit, a
The
little bit.
rate of increase will slow. The
I
rate of increase will slow, but they will
I
not
know
decrease.
not in 2021, but I think at the tail end of 2021, we'll see a decrease.
She's
That's
making
my
stuff.
prediction. I'm not trying, like, I know what Ray sees the rosy picture. I see a more doom and gloom picture myself. Just saying, I can't
think
see.
it takes
There's so many people out of
it
work.
it takes so much to create doom and gloom, but unemployment here, let's unemployment numbers.
I think it came out was like another additional 83,000 people. I think that what it was.
Let's see. In November, number of long-term unemployment increased 385 to 3.9 million. But what's the percentage of it on that? We're finding this.
Yeah, because he and I get, like, I read the articles. I'm not stupid. I'm like seeing it, like, I'm looking at it from the people that are making the least, like, they're just the average American making like, on the low end of the income scale, how those people have been affected, how those houses are going to go on the market. I see a lot of small businesses that have been shut down. I see a lot of people not going to be able to go back to work. I see a lot of people that couldn't go back to work because they're staying home with their kids. I see it differently than
It,
what's written on a piece of paper.
it's
It's
one
more than just a number.
it's 1% off of what they would call full employment. And the reason why I say what they would call, they say like 4.5% to 6% they deem full employment.
Mhm.
And it kind of depends on who's in the White House, honestly, of how they report that. But so far,
The numbers are just fudged at a different way.
but they just call it, they say differently, right? They say, where it's a whopping 6.7%. And then someone else is in the White House and say near full employment at 6.7%.
The information is just delivered a
Yeah.
little differently.
Yeah. But we were at a high in April of 14.7%. So that beats October of 2009, which is the previous high around 10% or so. But it's gone down
Out of
steadily.
work, and then they came back to work, so that made that number artificially inflated because the shutdowns were
Right.
happening and the shutdowns weren't.
So now it's 6.7%. That's pretty good. Considering a worldwide pandemic, that's pretty good.
Whatever. How would I go about choosing a realtor as a first-time home buyer? What quality should I look for? First of all,
this is great. If you're in my area, you should just choose me. That's pretty easy.
and someone that's willing to look at the numbers in totally different ways. I always say that you have to interview at least 3 real estate agents. Ask them a series of questions of their experience of the area, how long that they've been a real estate agent, how many houses that have they sold, what is their expertise and what makes them special as a real estate agent in comparison to other real estate agents in the area. That's my questions. What are yours?
I think these days you're looking for somebody that handles a lot of the details well, and not just like details of closing times and stuff like that. That's basic. I mean details of finding exactly what you're looking for and how. So we're having to go above and beyond for our buyers. Finding properties that are off market or not on market yet. We're door knocking. We're doing intensive searches for our clients because it's difficult to find properties. So if they're not willing to go above and beyond right now in this market with a limited inventory, then I wouldn't even talk to them as an agent. So make sure they're willing to do a lot of extra work for you now and not get any extra money over what they would have made last year, and hire those people.
Yes, and I had something happen recently that someone was telling me about, and I was like, "No, never. Never pay anybody to work with them before you hire them. Like, never pay a real estate agent," or they say, I have this buyer's package that you have to pay for, or my new home buyers package that you have to pay for before you start working with me. Don't
Mhm.
ever do that. Absolutely
Mhm.
100% not. That to me, I was like, that's kind of scandalous. Like, I would never do that. That's gross. Have you
Yeah.
heard that before?
Yeah, well, I've heard of people charging that. I've also heard of agents, and I did a video about this recently on my personal channel, the Ray Creative Stuff, but where agents will charge an extra fee and then they'll collect it from the seller, calling it closing cost for a professional fee. And it's
Mhm.
very sneaky, and a lot of the buyers don't know it's happening, but it's causing the buyers to pay more for the house than it's actually worth. So that's something to watch out for too.
I hate predatory lending. I just think it's such bad karma that it's gonna come and bite you in the butt. I don't know how they sleep at night.
Yep.
Well, Mr. Ray, I wanna say thank you so much for having this lovely debate with me. I wanna thank everybody that's been in the chat. Random user, make sure you email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com to get your free oversized cup that I give away.
Such
I
a good
never
one.
random user. And I appreciate everybody coming out here today. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button on the way out. And after this ends, make sure you hit the join membership button. That would greatly appreciate it because I'm going to start a Discord. We can have these conversations later where I argue with Ray.
Perfect.
Whatever. So, Ray, this is the time where you just wave everybody goodbye. Say, bye, everybody. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for